Welcome back to the third in a series of how to draw that flat that your pesky instructor has assigned to you. All right, well, what we're going to need to do now is create some layers. In order to do so, I'm going to come up to my layer tool up here and pull down New Design Layer. Now you might not have demo in yours. You might have some sort of design layer 1 that it defaults to. You're going to create a new design layer, and you're going to call that frame. I like to use all capital letters when I draft. It's just a good practice. Click OK, and you're going to notice that a couple of things happen. One is you're now in a new layer, not the demo layer, and if your defaults are in place, your other layers where you have things drawn are going to turn gray. And this is a pretty good view of your layers to stay in. If you need to change those views, come up to the View menu, pull down to Layer Options, and you can see that you can show only the active ones, or you can show all of them without grade. You can even snap to the others. Being able to snap to all layers is really useful. I would stay out of the show, snap, and modify others. You can accidentally be in one layer and modifying something in another. It works against one of the powerful features of layers. So either gray and snap or show and snap others. I'm going to leave it in gray and snap. Now you'll notice down in here in my navigation window, and if you don't have that palette visible, a reminder that you can get that palette by going to your window pull-down menu and hit navigation. It defaults to classes. That's this first icon here. You want to be in the layers. So click on the second icon from the left, and it'll show you that we now have my old demo layer that I drew the triangle in, and a frame layer. Let's do a third layer now. Let's go to a new design layer, and let's call this corner blocks. Click OK. But I don't want to be in my corner blocks layer. In order to draw my frame, I want to be in my frame layer. Very good. If I don't want that demo layer to show up, it's very easy to make it go away. I'll just come over here and turn it off. I'm going to zoom out, see where my paper is. All right. And the very first thing I'm going to do is that rectangle tool. And I'm going to set the boundaries of my rectangle. Oh, I left it in the contextual menu, drawing from the center point. I don't want that. So I'm just going to delete it and go back to drawing from the corner and sort of pull up and to the right. And I'm going to type in 4 feet, tab again, 10 feet, oops, 10 inches. There we go, 10 feet. Hit return and return again, and there I have the boundaries. It's like I've laid down a sheet of Luan on the floor or something like that, or on a work table. Then right on top of this, I'm going to go to my double line tool. I'm going to need to set that separation for that double line tool to 3.5 inches, right? The width of a 1x4. And just as a reminder, I want to be creating polygons with this from our previous tutorial. I have my control line mode creating the second line below my first line that are between the two red dots. I'm going to click on one corner, pull it over to the other side, click again, click, drag, click, right? Now I have my rail. But I'm going to need to extrude that. I want to make that a three-dimensional object. I want to use the power of this program. So I can move up here and I can model that in my pull-down menu, you'll see it says Control E will give me the same results, and I almost always use the keyboard shortcut here. But let's extrude that. What that's going to do is it's going to extrude it up towards our face by whatever thickness I want that board to have. We all know that a 1x4 has 3/4 of an inch thickness, so I'm going to type 3/4, 3/4 of an inch, click OK, and now I have my my rail extruded 3/4 of an inch. Now here's another really super powerful tool. I use the mirror tool all the time. Click on the mirror tool, go to the midpoint of my flat boundaries, click, drag, and it's semi-constrained. I mean, I can turn it other ways, but it kind of wants to snap to that horizontal line, and it gives me another toggle at the bottom of the page. Now I'm going to need to put in my styles. So I'm going to click on my double line tool, come to the bottom left corner, drag up to the top left corner, click again. I'm going to Control E to extrude that, and now I've got a style that is extruded 3/4 of an inch, and it's sharing the same space as my rails, and I don't want that, right? I want it to fit in between those two rails. So now I'm going to use another very powerful tool of Vectorworks. I'm going to use my modeling tool, right? And I'm going to subtract solids. So I'm going to hold down my Shift key. I want to go back to my select tool. I'm going to hold down my Shift key, and I'm going to select the two different elements that are encroaching on each other's space. And I'm going to subtract solids, which is also Control-Alt-S. It wants to subtract from my rail. I want it to subtract from my style. So I'm going to switch the elements with these arrow keys in the dialog box until the one I want to subtract from turns red. And in this case, I want to retain my subtracting object. I don't want my rail to go away. I'm going to click OK, and you see it took away the end of the style. I can do the same thing with the other rail. Model, subtract solids, switch with getting subtracted. It remembers that I still want to retain subtracting objects until I tell it otherwise. Click OK, and I've got my style. I'm going to use my powerful mirror tool, and I'm going to pull down from the midpoint of my rail and plop that other style in there. Now I'm going to go to my double line tool again, and I'm going to, using the contextual menu, ask it to draw finding the center line. And still have 3.5 inches of separation. I'm going to click from one style to the other style and extrude that again, Control E, 3/4 of an inch, click OK. You're going to ask, hey Brian, why didn't you do that with the styles? Well, probably should have, but I wanted to show you how to use the modeling tool. All right. Let's say that we want our bottom and top toggles that are intermediate to be 2 feet from the bottom edge of the whole flat. Well, I can duplicate this rail by hitting Control D, or I can also use the duplicate tool found in the edit menu, but it's so intuitive to Control D, I hardly ever use that. And you'll notice that nothing really much changed here, but there is another object here. Oops. Control Z. Control Z is my friend, right? I can always undo what I just did. If I want to move this object, I hover over it until that plus sign appears. And you'll see that I've got 2 of those bad boys there. Now, when you first use Vectorworks, you may have your duplicate get offset for you. Here's how to fix that. You'll come down from Tools to Options to Vectorworks Preferences, and you'll get this dialog box. Tools to Vectorworks Preferences. And when you receive the program, it thinks everybody wants to offset duplication, so why shouldn't you? And it'll have that box checked right there. You want to uncheck that. I don't think it is particularly convenient. So I'm going to duplicate that toggle, and now I'm going to do something really useful. You'll remember XY coordinates from graphing things in algebra, right? So my X is right and left, and my Y is up and down, and I want to move this rail 2 feet from the bottom edge of the flat. So I can modify by moving. You'll see that a Control M, very intuitive, M for move, is one of my options here. So I'm almost always going to use Control M to move an object that I've selected. My X offset, right and left, doesn't need to go anywhere, but my Y offset needs to go 2 feet. Click OK. Yeah, that doesn't look quite right. I think I needed about 2.5 feet. So I can move it another 6 inches. Control M. Now I'm going to move it 6 inches. To the good. And that's right about where I want it. I like it. You can guess what I'm going to do here now. I've already extruded that rail. And I can tell that by looking at my object info up here. And you'll see that it has a value for being extruded 3/4 of an inch. But I also need to model this. I need to subtract solids. I need to subtract it this time from the toggle. I'm going to retain my subtracting solid and click OK. Hold down my Shift key. Hold down my Shift key so I select 2 objects. Subtract solids. Switch which solid gets subtracted. Click OK, and there it is. Now I bet you can guess the next tool I'm going to use. It's my mirror tool. I'm going to mirror that toggle up to the top. All right, the next thing we need to do is set in our corner blocks, and that will be in the next video.